Today we've come over to the Nurburgring to upgrade the suspension on this 992 GT3 here at Misha's workshop at Vulcan Alpha.
The front end, that's really something else. So with the extra camber and the eliminating of the bump steer, that's really insane.
We've got quite a few suspension upgrades to install to this car today, but before we get started, we thought we'd just take a little look over the car as to what the car actually is. So this is a Porsche 992 GT3, and it can be compared to the 992 GT3 RS because that is the next step up in terms of going into more track aggression. So the 992 GT3 is more road focused than the GT3 RS, and a couple of ways to see that is, one, the most visual aspect is the aerodynamics. So on the GT3 RS we have a big rear wing that has active DRS. We also have a bigger front splitter, so much more downforce and aggression from the exterior of the GT3 RS. Underneath, we also have quite a few differences too. We have the electronic diff, the electronic dampers that have independent bump and rebound adjustment, whereas on the GT3 we still just have the PASM on and off, so we can stiffen and soften the shocks as opposed to playing with them in much finer detail as a GT3 RS. The GT3 RS out the factory is also completely monoballed as standard, whereas the GT3 has rubber bushes in the vast majority of its suspension components just to give more compliance and movement and make it a lot quieter and softer out on the roads. But on track that can be an impact, which we'll touch on a little bit later too. So we're going to be installing our full Suspension Secrets 992 track pack to this car today just to unlock even more grip and potential. So let's get started and we'll show you a few of the components. We're going to get started now getting the upgrades all fitted to the 992 GT3. So at the front end, the 992 actually is a double wishbone suspension setup, which compares to the previous generation, which was still a McPherson strut like all the Porsches that have gone before. They've moved to the double wishbone suspension system because it's actually a better system for maintaining consistent geometry when it's going around a track. So it's a lot more track focused in that sense, which is really nice to see. What that does mean is we can't use the top mount of the shock to make the camber adjustments like we normally would on the previous generation Porsches. So for this application, we have a camber block. So the camber block is effectively a metal block that mounts in the top of the hub and it adjoins to the wishbone. It then has an adjustable bolt that we can rotate and it can alter the camber. As standard, using this block on the standard component, we can only get up to about negative 2.8 degrees of camber, which isn't enough for what we're looking for, especially for track use. This car is actually fitted with Nankang CRS tyres, so that's quite a grippy compound, quite a nice good track tyre. And as soon as we took these tyres off, we inspected them and we noticed that the outside edge was a lot more worn than the inside edge on the tyre, which suggested that it needed even more camber. The car had already been set up prior to coming in and it was already at maximum available standard camber. So we've installed our camber blocks, which allows us to get up to -4 degrees of camber. We don't need that much on this car. That's if you're sort of running slicks, you might go right up to that sort of -4 number. On this car, we're going to be in the low to mid 3 degrees though, which we wouldn't be able to achieve with the standard camber blocks. So they're in there now and we can adjust that camber up to the exact setting we're looking for. So we often get asked as well why we don't use camber shims, because you can insert camber shims on the front lower control arms to increase camber too. However, there's a couple of reasons why we don't like doing that on the front axle of these cars. One is as you start to shim that lower control arm out, it actually pushes the front assembly forwards and the tyre can really start catching quite hard on the front inner arch liner. So to avoid that contact issue, we can use the camber block and it just purely adjusts that camber, and it also doesn't affect caster as we're adjusting camber, as it's a purely inboard adjustment. If we also need slightly different positions left to right on the camber block or with shims, if we were using shims, that would also change the caster left to right by uneven amounts if we needed a different amount of shims to achieve an even reading on the wheel, which can happen sometimes because not all chassis are perfectly even. So the camber block is again a preferred choice because we can have them in slightly different positions left to right on the bolt to achieve the same number at the wheel, but it doesn't alter the caster, so it's still an even caster reading left to right. So a really nice way of achieving more camber at the front axle and a really clean way of doing it as well. With the camber blocks fitted, the next step is to get the car lower and also to increase the rake angle. The rake angle is when we lower the nose more than we lower the rear to get that nose down attitude, and it's something that the Porsche chassis is very responsive to. BMWs are also responsive to it, but Porsches in particular, with the lack of physical weight at the nose, they really like having that rake angle put in to get much more dynamic mass onto that front tyre, to get more grip at the front axle, much more positive steering and turning response as well when you do that. So it's definitely a setting we want to achieve. However, when you start to lower the nose a lot, so we're going to lower this car quite a lot for track use, but when you're going down quite a lot on the front axle, you actually get something called bump steer into the system. So bump steer is effectively best shown with this. This is the tyre rod end, so the steering rack attaches to this end and the hub attaches at this end. As we lower the car, the wheel assembly stays in the same place because it's attached to the wheel, but as we lower the car, the chassis starts going down like this and we get an inclined angle on the tyre rod end itself. So during normal operation at a level sort of ride height, we have up and down movement as the wheel goes up and down, and the tyre rod isn't being pulled and pushed in or out very much because it's at the maximum length of its arc pattern. As we lower that down at this end, when we lower the car itself, we're actually inclining the bump steer. This is an exaggerated view, but it's a better way to show it. So as the wheel now goes up and down, it's pulling inboard quite a lot and pushing outboard quite a lot on the bump and the droop. What this leads to is bump steer. So effectively, as we go up in compression, it's pulling the front of that wheel in and it's steering the front axle. And as we go into droop, it's pushing it out. So what this means is as we're starting to effectively turn into the corner, the front wheels, as they load and unload, start needing the steering wheel feeding in even more because the bump steer starts to steer the car away from the corner, which is not what we want at all. It can feel like understeer out on track. So if you've ever driven your Porsche on track and it's being lowered, you might have felt that sensation before where you turn the steering wheel in and as the car starts to load over, you actually have to feed the wheel again to get back into the apex, and that is the bump steer taking action. So what we can do to combat that is we've installed our bump steer tyre rod ends. These have adjustable shims above and below the rose joint at the hub end. So as we lower the car, we can actually shim that rose joint end down again to level it back out. This removes the bump steer from the system. What that means is as we turn the steering wheel and feed the wheel into the corner, it can hold its arc pattern because it's not using that load to actually change the steering again. When it loads over, the steering doesn't move because we've got rid of the bump steer and it just turns in on a really nice clean angle. Gives a lot more stability and confidence as a driver as well, which is something obviously, especially here at the Nurburgring, is really important to have in a car when you're pushing hard. You don't want to have it feeling like the front end's floating around and starting to understeer. You just want a lot of confidence in the nose. You want to turn in, hold your line and then focus on your exit into the next corner. So it gives you a lot more of a clear mind as a driver back because you're not fighting the bump steer on the car itself. So really nice upgrade. So very excited to see what Misha thinks of this front end tomorrow when he goes testing. Moving to the rear of the car, the first thing we're going to be looking at is the rear camber. So at the back, we actually have a multi-link suspension system, which is very different to the front end. So this means we can use shims in the rear lower control arm here. So these are our shims that we can effectively install at the rear axle. So with these inserted into the arm here, we can shim more camber into the rear wheels. So we have more contact patch to lean onto. So for similar reasons as the front, for track use, especially with a grippier tyre, you need more camber at that wheel to get more use out the tyre and more grip. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you increase the grip, you're going to be increasing the need for the chassis to physically roll over on itself. So you're going to be onto the outside edge of the contact patch and that's going to lead to oversteer through the corner. So when we put these shims in, we're going to increase camber using the shims and then we're going to get that contact patch from the tyre and effectively more grip, reducing the oversteer at the rear axle. The final upgrade we're going to be fitting to this car today as part of our track pack is the rear upper monoballs. So the 4 control arms at the top of the suspension assembly on this car have rubber bushes at either end. These rubber bushes deflect quite a lot through the corner, especially as again we have more grip from the tyre and more aero downforce from either aero mods on the OEM setup or with additions like the Vulcan Alpha wings, for example, giving more downforce and therefore more grip from the tyre. What this means is with the extra grip in the tyre, we can carry more force and more speed through the corner, and this equals more force through the suspension assembly into the chassis, which means that these bushes are getting deflected even more. So the faster we're going, the more these bushes are deflecting, therefore they're actually changing the geometry at the rear axle through the corners. And by way of that, the faster we're going, the more geometry deflection occurs, which is the absolute opposite of what we would like to see. So we have a monoball kit, which is effectively a solid spherical bearing in a machined housing that goes into the arm instead of the rubber bush. With these fitted, there is no deflection from that bush, and it means that the geometry remains really nice and stable and consistent around track. The reason these bushes are in there as standard is that the GT3 is ultimately a road car. So on the road, you want little NVH, you want as little sort of noise and vibration and harshness as possible. So the rubber bushes are there for comfort and compliance. But out on track, you do not want the rubber in the system because you're going to get that flex and it's going to lead to inconsistencies in feel and it's going to lose that confidence in the drive as well. The GT3 RS, the 992 and the 991.2 is actually completely monobold as standard, as is the GT4 RS. So it is something that is done by Porsche, but only on the most extreme model variants of the range. And they do this for the exact reason of making it much more stable when it's being pushed really hard to its limits. So that's why we're going to be fitting the monoballs today, to raise the level of the car up towards the GT3 RS in terms of monoballing, so we get much more confidence and stability at the rear axle with the monoballs installed. With the parts all fitted, it's now time to give this car a full suspension setup. So we've got it here on the patch, all rigged up so we can give it a full string alignment to get as much out of this car as possible. With the parts refitted, we can get even more camber at the front and rear axle, allowing us to use the full width of that tyre to get as much grip out of the compound. With the monoballs at the rear end as well, and the bumpsteer tower ends fitted to the front, we expect to see a lot more stability in the chassis, giving Misha much more confidence out on track, with much more high-speed stability, so we can push even harder with much more confidence. So it's now time to hand the car over to Misha and see what he thinks.
Wow, almost flat through here. Insane. Whew. This first impressions, my God. I can brake also much harder because the front end is much more settled now. Oh, this is good.
Straight back in. What's your first impressions?
Wow, insane. So I have to be honest, on the previous track day, I already noticed that the car was getting a bit loose because we have 27.5 or like almost 28,000 kilometers on track with this car on the Nurburgring. Well, that's a bumpy jumpy. So I told actually the team like bushings start to get a bit like on the old side. Would be good to replace them. Now we replaced them and the car is so much more stable on the rear. So the problem what I had, like especially like the last corner, when you turn in for the high speed, when you're doing like 180 kilometers per hour, like 110 miles per hour, you turn in, the car settles, but then it starts to wiggle mid-corner and you're like, don't like it. And now it settles and it's there. And then you go just flat out through there. But that's the least of the exciting bits. The front end, that's really something else. So with the extra camber and the eliminating of the bump steer, that's really insane. So first of all, corner grip, the low speed corner grip where you put lots of G-forces, like I don't know, force, etc. The car just like really grips and you go on two wheels. It's like a race car. We're not on any new tires.
No, they're dead now,
So that's really impressive. But also the fact that you do not have bump steer. You're going through the carousel, the steering wheel is straight. You're going through Berwick, which is like the bumpiest braking zone. You go on the brakes, and it's not like the car is jumping into ABS and you're like, oh, am I gonna make it? No, it's just like planted. You brake into the corner, and with the trail braking with this car, it's also extra beneficial to have the front end constantly under load. It's gonna take me a few more laps to relearn the car because
that's it. It's a different machine.
I have between 100 and 200 laps probably with this car now throughout the years with all the taxi programs we've been doing. So I know it quite well, but now it's like, oh, it's a completely different animal. So much more direct, so much more sharper, so much more grip. So I need to find the limit again gradually. But it's going to make you definitely a faster driver or a faster car. But for someone who is a bit less experienced or a beginner driver, it's going to give you so much more confidence in the, even if you're not like I'm doing like between 7 and 7:30 depending on the traffic and stuff with this car with passenger. So if you're still doing like 1 minute slower than that, you're still going to notice because it's going to give you so much grip and confidence, and you can actually focus on the track, on the traffic, on other things, and not on keeping the grip.
It gives you that safety blanket because camber's so important, especially on the front axle of these things, because if you go into a corner a bit too hot, and here at the ring, obviously, the exits are blind in most cases, so that's a possibility where you're going a bit too hot, and it's nice to have the tyre there to save you in those scenarios, to have the grip there. Absolutely. If you've just gone a little bit too much, you can just back off, get on the tyre, and it'll get you back around the corner. So it's good for performance, but it is also good from a safety aspect too in that sense.
Absolutely. Well, it's always both, you know. I mean, when you look at like, also like, for example, Manthey, you know, they do here lap records with the stock versus their kit. Pro driver does just 5 or 10 seconds on a lap record.
Yeah.
But a less experienced driver, he will be like half a minute faster than he used to be, because it's completely different like level of, well, of grip and experience and how much confidence you get. So this is probably like the best upgrade you can get for a car in terms of performance, like, you know, because it's safety.
The most cost-effective upgrade
yes,
for this car.
safety and performance. Because if you need to do, when you buy such a car, you need to do alignment anyway. While you're doing an alignment, might as well get the most out of it.
Put the best bits in.
Yeah,
exactly. Awesome. No, I'm glad you're happy.
Yeah,
glad you enjoyed it.
Very happy. I'm very much looking forward to sharing more fun with our taxi guests, because we still have a few more days this year.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm sure they're going to be really blown away by the corner grip now that we have.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Yeah.
So that's a wrap on the track day, and we've had an awful lot of fun out in the 992 GT3 today. I've been out in the passenger seat as well to experience those upgrades for myself around the Nurburgring, and it makes an absolutely huge difference. It's actually more like how a GT3 RS feels around here. It's hard to get that stability out of a car at that sort of speed without the monoballs fitted, and with the bumpsteer tower ends as well, just feeling that car go through the carousel, and you can feel all those input forces on the front wheels, but the steering wheel just stayed so stable. So really cool to see that theory in action as well. To see the full onboard video, check out Misha's channel. That'll be going up very soon. If you like what you've seen, just subscribe to the channel, and we can't wait to bring you even more.